What are we saying, Bulletproof Ballers? I am now in Sheffield, absolutely locked in, so these YouTube videos are going to be coming out 3 a week at least. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday are going to be posted on my main channel, and then we're also going to be posting at least one podcast a week on the Bulletproof Ballers channel, but also YouTube videos from there as well. Today, I really want to talk about ACL rehab. Just training after someone's had an ACL tear, whether that be when they're back playing football, whether that be rehab. But these are the biggest things missing that are causing the re-tear rate to be so high. Right now, we have an epidemic of ACL tears in football. And not only do we have an epidemic of ACL tears once, but we have an epidemic of ACL tears twice, right? We have 50% of people getting back to the same level of the sport that they played before when they've had an ACL tear. And from that 50%, another 50% go on to either re-tear the same leg or tear the other leg within the next 2 years. So that means we have a 25% success rate in ACL rehab. Which sounds crazy, and I don't want to make it all doom and gloom because we can do something about it and we shouldn't have this at all. To be honest, we have 100%. For everyone that's been through our entire program, we have 100% success rate, right? And even for the people that haven't been through the entire program, I've never had anyone reach out to me to say they've re-torn. They've probably gone on to carry on doing the training and it's whatever. So there is easy things that we are missing from our training. And I see over and over again, whether that be, like I say, in early stages, mid stages, late stages, and I'm going to run through everything here. So, why actually listen to me? Obviously, my story myself, right? I had major knee injuries. I did have a grade 2 ACL tear as well. That was more damage over time. It wasn't just an absolute snap straight away. It was built up. But I also had a snap kneecap at 16 with a meniscus tear. I then had surgery on that, and then after that my knee got worse. I ended up having an ACL, grade 2 ACL tear, tendon damage, cartilage damage, some more meniscus damage. So I've overcome all of that. My knee feels better than ever. We're absolutely rolling. It's stronger than it's ever been in my life. I'm playing football. We've also helped a bunch of people to be able to do the same thing. So Summer is one of the best examples. She was 16 years old, ACL and meniscus tear. She came to us 4 months afterwards. She couldn't even walk down the stairs without extreme quad tendon pain because she had a quad graft. Her physios were just telling us ice, rest, don't do anything that hurts and just forget about it, right? 6 months later, we then got her back to full sports. She was absolutely smashing out Nordics. Her strength coach said, I've never seen anyone come back up on the Nordic before because she had 4 in a row in her strength, whatever. I then saw her about 4 months later than that, and she said her knee literally feels like it's never happened. She's never had an ACL tear. It feels normal, if not better, than before. So that's one example. We've had Colin, who had an ACL meniscus tear. He said our training was the best ever. Anthony, who had a grade 2 ACL tear without surgery. He's then been able to recover from that through our training, and the list goes on and on and on, really. But those are the ones off the top of my mind. And what was the last thing I said as well? Who my mentors are. Obviously, as well, my mentors, Knees Over Toes guy, has the most knee success stories out of any single person. He personally had an ACL tear himself, which he didn't have surgery for, and he ended up fixing it through rehab and stuff like that, and his knees are better than ever. He had quad tendon tears, a bunch of different stuff as well. So we've learned from the best. Keegan Smith as well had patellar tendon issues for years. He's one of the best strength coaches in the world. So yeah, we're rolling, you could say that at least. First thing that I see missing is triple flexion, right? So ankle, knee and hip all have 2 primary functions. So if we think of this as the ankle, right? One's to flex up and then one's to extend. So to flex up, you use your tib, which is on the front of the shin, and to push through to extend is then the calf, right? For the knee, again, extension and flexion. So hamstrings flex the knee as well as gastro, different knee flexor muscles. But then the quads extend the knee, right? So 2 functions there. The hips, again, you extend through something like an RDL, and then you flex through lifting your leg up, like a hip flexor raise, right? So we are super focused on triple extension. Triple flexion is often the most missed. Particularly in ACL, the most important thing is that knee flexion, because we're building super strong hips, but then we don't have any knee flexion standards, which is, if you look at the mechanism of ACL tears as well as where it happens, and if you specifically look at Nordics, but I'm going to get into that in a sec, it's going to protect the ACL so much if we have good knee flexion strength, right? But as well, ankle flexion strength and hip flexion strength as well. It is so missed, and I don't actually understand why it's missed. We just forget about it, right? So First thing then is like the tib raise, and it is a small muscle, but it is an important one at the same time. Let me just make my face a little bit smaller, get that out of the way. So this is crucial in decelerating. If you look when you plant your leg, the first thing that it does when you plant is your tib lifts up, right? You're on your heel and then that lowers, which is literally a tib raise. If you look at this position here where I'm lifting my tibs up is literally that deceleration position. So to start with, all of that force is going to go into the tib. If you have no tib, then that's going to go up into the knee and just going to be dispersed elsewhere, right? Go into the bones, it's going to create shin splints, it's going to create all kinds of stuff that you don't want, right? So having strong tibs is super, super crucial in decelerating, and decelerating is where the majority of the ACL tears actually happen. So to train your tibs, and I do this first, I do tibs and calves first because they're so neglected. And even if they're left to the end, like you don't really like do them too much, whatever. And I feel like when you pump the tib up before, the knee starts to feel better anyway, if we have had any injuries like that. So first thing you can do is literally just go up against a wall. If you don't have any equipment, go up against a wall, put your butt up against it, lean forward at the shoulders. Don't have your torso on the wall, but only your butt. Then stick your feet out forward. You want to then raise the toes up, pause at the top, and then lower them back down. Have control on that the whole time. And you're going to feel a pump right up this shin here, this muscle that is all the way around here, right? Second thing that you can then do is a tib bar. I don't have a video of it, but ATG sell them, a bunch of places on Amazon sell them, and that's going to be $2 for. However, for people that have had knee injuries and they've stopped planting on the leg and it's atrophied and stuff like that, I do like an ISO tib rather than a tib bar, because you can isolate one tib and then catch it up to the other side. For example, using something like floss, and you don't need an actual ISO tib device, you can literally just use floss bands. What I do is I just tie a dumbbell around my foot like this, and then I just lift that tib up, and you can see how this muscle here is all flexing, right? And this is better as well, because in this you kind of have a limited range of motion. The further away from the wall you get, the more range of motion, the harder it gets. But this has the full range of motion no matter what, and you just need to lower the weight a little bit if you can't do it. That's probably my preferred choice. It is a little bit tedious with the floss bands and stuff like that, so it's completely up to you what you want to do, but that is my favorite, and that's the most optimal if we were going for optimal. So first thing, start training your tibs. Second thing is then knee flexion. Like I said, literally the majority of ACL tears happen in deceleration. But when we come back from rehab, we start powering up the hips, which when our hip extends, that's when we go forward. When our knee extends, that's when we go back, right? So we want to really focus on the knee in particular. If that's what the issue is, if we've had a knee injury, why are we not focusing on the knee? Especially not even doing knee flexion, which is one of the main two functions out of the knee. And then no deep ROM as well, which I'm going to go into in a bit. But it's so important to start training knee flexion. And you might have seen everyone doing Nordic curls and stuff like that, which are really good. And I'm going to talk about why that is really good. But even if you just start building strength and seated hamstring curls, which I get most people to do to start with anyway, we're going to have such a less likely chance of tearing our ACL. So if you look at the difference between a hamstring curl and a Nordic curl, the hamstring curl is going to be much easier, right? Because of a couple things. So when the knee is extended, which we know our ACL tears in about 30 degrees, that's when the most pressure is on the ACL, there's not much tension on it. The tension gets more as you squeeze down and that muscle is contracting, right? So this is what we call a short range exercise, where it's more muscle dominant, it's not hitting those tendons as much, and it's harder when the muscle is shortened. The second thing why it's easier than the Nordic curl is because you can adjust the weight, whereas on the Nordic curl, you can adjust stuff by using the incline, but it's going to be tougher if you don't have an actual Nordic bench, whereas the hamstring is very scalable. Like, if you can't curl this much, just put it down to a pound, right? Anyone can really curl a pound. For that, the long-term kind of bulletproofing effects, we really do want to look at the Nordic. Like here, I'm even getting extra work in this long range, right? This end position here is when it's hardest in the lift. When I go up to the top, you'll see here, like there's no tension on me here. I can just chill here all day, and that's why I'm kind of gassed out. So I'm like sitting up there chilling, letting my hamstrings recover, right? Whereas in this position on the hamstring curl, this is where all the tension is, right? However, when our ACL tears, it is in around this position, right? So this is when it's hardest in the Nordic curl, okay? So this is really important, and this can scale as well. Like, we do want to hit that end range. So an incline bench, you can raise your hips using a pad or something like that, but we do really want to get to that position where is getting that end range portion, because most people, when they start training the Nordic curl, they either flop down or they only go a little bit and they don't end up ever training that long range. So we want to, even if we train the hamstring curls first and then lengthen out the tissues and like elephant walks and stuff like that, and then progress to the Nordic curls later, or if you have an incline bench or can regress it to the point where you can get that full end range work, that's kind of what we want to do first. Like, how much more bulletproof are people going to be if they can do stuff like this that I'm doing here? I'm going down on the Nordic and I'm not just controlling that full range, but I'm coming up a tiny bit into that portion, end range portion where it's hardest, and then popping back up again, right? Like, that is so crucial. If we got every single person who had an ACL tear to this kind of standards, I promise you the re-tear rates would go down significantly, right? So this is really important. Both of these, hamstring curls, do Nordic curl maybe once a week, hamstring curl twice a week, depending on what equipment you have and stuff like that. Regress it to your level. The Nord is going to be more connective tissue dominant as well, so it's really going to hit in that back of the knee or the tendons or the ligaments or everything firing up. Next thing is then hip flexion. The harder it is for us to lift up our legs, the more stomping that we're going to do in the ground and the more force. And you can think of that as being like stuck in the mud. Like, you kind of can't lift your legs up that much. If you look at the best sprinters in the world, there's two muscles which are the biggest difference between them and ordinary people. One is the hip flexor, the psoas muscle, which lifts your leg up, and two is the glute, which extends, because they're running forward in a straight line. They're accelerating a lot, and then they're picking up their legs loads. Obviously, a lot of their muscles are going to be different to people in ordinary life, but the two biggest ones, hip flexors and hip extenders, glutes. So, a few things you can do here. Gar hammer raises, which are like these, where you come down to 90 degrees, pick your knees up there, and that's going to be more short range for the abs, get a really good contraction. The next progression on that would be something like the reverse squat, and again, you can go single leg if you've got imbalance to side, but then this starts to get the full range. So yeah, you do come up and you really want at the top to have those hamstring covering the calves. Mark Bell doesn't quite have the mobility, or it's just an action shot. So we really do want to pull it up so we get that short range contraction, but when you lower all the way down, there's still tension until you get to that bottom portion. The other ones that are kind of gold, the things that I like are like single leg hip flexor raises with like a dumbbell attached to the foot, or a kettlebell picking up, or a cable machine behind you and doing that same kind of thing but pulling it out through, right? But hip flexion, super important as well. As I say, harder to lift up the legs, the more stomping in the ground, the more force is going to go into those knees and more risk of tears, right? So first thing, triple flexion. Please look at your program and assess, do I have both triple extension and triple flexion? So that means ankle extension, calf raises, tib raises for ankle flexion, knee extension, and again, I'm going to go into some more details on knee extension in particular, but then knee flexion as well, and then hip extension and hip flexion. If you don't have all of these, you are creating an imbalanced body. And if you create an imbalanced body, imbalances lead to more injuries. Right? So please make sure that you look at your program, see what's missing, see what your standards are, and then adjust your program based on what you are missing. Okay, second thing then that we're going to be talking about is knee extension, in particular deep range of motion. Training quads on their own is not enough, and I'm going to tell you a story about Colin right now. So I personally think the knee itself is so much more important, right? Colin was 7-8 months post ACL meniscus surgery. He was with these physios and they were getting him to do two things for the front of the knee. And even two things, I was like, okay, crazy. Like, that's not enough for the front of my knee. First thing was Bulgarian split squats, that kind of half range of motion split squat. The second thing was leg extension. So those were the only two things they were doing for the knee. So then he came to me and I was like, okay, I want to assess you. And I got him to do two things. I got him to do the split squat for the front of the knee and the HG squat. On the squat, when I tell you, he literally looked like a pooing dog. Sorry, Colin, if you're watching this. But his knee wasn't able to bend. So then he was bending over trying to get down there. He was only able to go to half range of motion. His torso was so curved. And none of his knee was able to take it right. So if you think about it, let's think about what health is. If we think about health, we think about youth. If we think about youth, we think about, okay, they can get into all different kinds of positions. They can sit in deep squats all day. They can use their full range of motion, right? Our knee has a full range of motion for a reason, right? So we want to train that in the gym so that our tissues can be thicker and stronger. When we go to a full range of motion, we use our connective tissue in the way it was designed right? We don't just use our muscles, because if we power up our muscles and we build our muscles, but then our knee can't handle it, we're literally creating ACL tears again. Training through a full range of motion is so important, and we want to be able to rebuild this ability. And I'm going to run you through how we rebuild that in this. But we do want to get to the point where we can bend the knee fully with load, like get to advanced standards. So first thing that I want to talk to you about is the ATG split squat. This is because it's so good for scaling. And single leg can then fix imbalances side to side as well. Because obviously if we're having an ACL tear, it's most likely that it was just on one leg. So that leg is probably going to be the one that can't bend as much, right, after surgery. So if we take something like a split squat, and there should be another video on here that's not loading. Okay, so I found the video. It wasn't actually on the page, and I didn't put it, but we can see how this scales, right? We can scale by elevating this front foot, using assistance, whether that be chairs next to us, whether that be using something like this mobility box, whether that be dowel poles or something like that, but something to take body weight off our knee. Over time, we can then move down the heights and then start to add load as well, right? So it really scales the ATG split squat, and we're getting a full range of motion, we're getting length through the back hip flexor, and it's just good all around. So yeah, I've built up to pretty elite standards on this now, hitting, I think this is 50 kg on my back. I'm about 63 kg body weight. So it's not bad standards, right? Your aim is going to be 50% of your body weight, perfect form for about 10 reps, right? Perfect form. And when I mean perfect form, full hamstring covering the calf, back hip, back knee off the ground on flat ground, right? That's the thing we want to work to over time. Again, we can use floss bands, we can use different stuff to help us get into this deep range of motion, but that's the goal over time. Then we go into something like an ATG split squat. And again, this is, if you're still in balance, we can do the next one, which is the next one's going to be pistol squats. But this, to be honest, like, I usually get people to start working the squat anyway a little bit before that, just because the pistol squats are going to be tough. Like, obviously you can scale them as well based off the range of motion and stuff, but anyway, we're talking about the squat right now. Again, it is very good for scaling, because we can go from using assistance, again, like we are in the split squats and stuff like that, limiting the range of motion, using floss bands, stuff like that, to going to counterbalance, to going to body weight, to then working up to load. I would say that because it is bilateral and we're going to have those imbalances side to side because of the ACL tear, I would go less frequent on this to start. So I would go more frequent on the split squat, maybe doing the split squat 2 times a week, maybe 3 times, and maybe the squat once a week, maybe not even put it in until I'm a bit more balanced. On this bar now, like, this is over my body weight on the bar, but we want to squat arse to grass with this kind of form, really pausing that bottom and then going up with 100% of our body weight for 10 reps, right? And that's our minimum standard. So you think about how good our connective tissue inside our knee is going to be when we get to that, right? And again, the ATG split squat is then used again because you can compensate side to side and just get the bar up and not move perfectly. Maybe you put more weight on your stronger leg and stuff like that. So these two, the pistol and the ATG split squat, are going to be evidence showing, okay, I can't actually hide, right? I love this variation. So this takes away a lot of the mobility, which is counterbalance. Again, you can use TRX straps, anything to hold on in front. Second thing you can do is then limit the range of motion. So start squatting to a box. Maybe the box starts like here. So you only start squatting to here, and then you go a little bit lower, then you go a little bit lower, then you go a little bit lower, then you go a little bit lower. But we want to get to the point where we can go full range, right? If we can't do one pistol squat, full range of motion, even if that's counterbalance, that's fine as well. But if we don't have the strength to be able to do full range of motion pistol squats in our knee is not ready to play elite sport, right? So I've gotten to the point now where I can do at least 20 kg in front of me. So I'm going to start doing some Zerch ones, see what we can get to. It's going to be fun. But I'm going to try to push elite standards on this as well, right? This is going to be more of a mid-range exercise than it is going to be a long range. So even though it is getting that full range of motion, it's going to be a bit harder coming out of this position here. Whereas if you look at the split squat, the hardest portion is really that full range of motion, that end portion. There, boom. Once you get to there, like, the tension's not as much on it as it was in the bottom. So that's going to be harder for like the long range stuff, whereas this is a mid-range. So again, it could be easier depending on the specific case. Sometimes the pistol squat's easier, sometimes the split squat's easier. I would say usually the split squat is much easier because you have that back leg for balance as well, right? And you can scale it up to the things. But again, pistol squat's going to be good as well. So those are the 3 things that I want to see for deep range of motion. Deep range of motion is so important. Stronger connective tissue, thicker and stronger ACL, like the joint itself, like that's what we need to start focusing on, right? The quad, hamstrings, the muscles, amazing. Like, let's do leg extension, let's do all this stuff as well. But if our knee can't handle stuff, and that's the thing that's torn or been injured, then what's going to happen when you go back? It's probably going to get injured again, right? Okay, cool. So deep range of motion, start training it. Then, last thing. So we had triple flexion, we had deep range of motion. Third thing that I see that's missing is deceleration ability, or deceleration pliers, or whatever you want to call it. We'll just call it deceleration ability in general, because there's going to be some stuff that's not as pliers. So plyometric just pretty much means shock training, right? So the focus is on getting that power and explosiveness back, right? Everyone, like, if someone says, oh yeah, like, this, come in, we'll do the pliers, we'll do your ACL stuff, like, we're going to get that power and explosiveness back. You're going to be like, yeah, I want to get that power and explosiveness back. Actually, we need to do the opposite. We need to get the deceleration ability. The bulletproofing is what I like to call it. So explosiveness, I feel, is on one side of the spectrum, where you're super explosive, you can accelerate a lot, whereas bulletproof is on the other spectrum, where we're injury resilient and we can handle those deceleration forces, right? Because when we come back from ACL tears and we're just powering up the hips, and then we're getting used to producing forces again, but then we can't actually handle those forces in deceleration, which again is where the injury happens in the first place. If we don't then fix that problem, we're gonna do it again, right? And there's more high intensity decelerations in a 90-minute football game than are accelerations. The best athletes in the world are the ones that can decelerate the best, the most protected, the ones that are going to stay in the game. If you look at the best players nowadays, Ronaldo, Messi, Mo Salah, they're usually getting better as they age. Messi is kind of an outlier just because he was a kind of a freak. But Ronaldo is now playing to his 40s. He scored more goals after 30 than before 30. Mo Salah is now like 32 and he's hitting his peak. It's because their body is resilient and they can keep playing in the game. So the more that you are able to play the game, the better you're going to get at football, right? It doesn't matter about how fast you are, how much you can accelerate, all this. If you've got an ACL tear, you can't play at all, right? You're going to have years out of the game. So let's stay in the game first, and then we can build acceleration on top of that if we know that we can handle that acceleration that we're building with the deceleration. Because if you have to take a year out or something when someone else doesn't, they then have a year of game time over what you have, right? So that's really going to be the focus, and I'm going to show you how to build the deceleration in this. First step, the lightest step, is going to be the backward sled. Kadeem's pushing it right now, but he'll start pulling it in a sec. So, and we'll pause it on this because this is the exact position of deceleration, but just in the opposite way. So if you look at him pushing back here, this is literally the opposite of deceleration. I wish I could rewind this right now, but you would see that the opposite would be that his he lands on his heel, he lowers his tib, and then his knee goes forward and then it extends, right? That would be the opposite of this. So we're literally building that exact position where the ACL tears. The other thing that's really, really cool and that gets a bit sciencey is that cyclic tension at shallow knee angles activates living cells within the ACL and helps it to get thicker and stronger over time. So if we get a lot of work, like if you think about it, ligaments don't get that much blood supply. So if we get so much blood flow, we get so many reps in this concentric only position, that is going to help get the nutrients into the joint rather than something like a 3-rep squat where it's not like that super high rep, it's not loads and loads of blood flow. It is going to build a lot of strength, a lot of relative strength, but something like sled, it's going to get loads of healing effects and like nutrients into the joint, right? So again, we're working slow to fast when we come to this deceleration pliers. The faster stuff is going to be more intense. If you think about a depth drop or bounds or something like that, that's going to be faster forces and that's going to be more intense. That's going to be less predictable than it is something like these. So we go sled first and then we go rhythm step up or rhythm squat. I usually just like step ups because again, we're going to have imbalances side to side. But if you look at this position again, just like the sled, that exact knee position, exactly where the ACL tears, we're literally putting so much tension on the ACL, on the knee, on the VMO, and that stress, that pressure is over time going to create thicker and stronger muscles, connective tissue, and ability to handle deceleration forces, right? The goal for the step up is really over time, getting to 6 inches on a Patrick step up. That's where we keep our heel flat. Our goal over time is going to be getting to 6 inches on a Patrick step up with 100% of our body weight, or a Poliquin step up at 6 inches where we have a slant board where we got at least 50% of our body weight on the bar, if not more. And that's really going to make us more able to handle those deceleration forces. The next thing is then going to be a depth drop, which I like. So instead of jumping up to a box and then stepping down, we're stepping up to a box and then dropping down. You see the difference there. One, we're building acceleration, we're building hip power, and not the ability to actually handle that force that we're producing. The other one, we're building the ability to handle force from that height, right? So you can do box jumps, but I would only do box jumps to a height which you can absorb on the way down. The other good thing about this is that it's, again, really, really scalable. You can literally go from a 1-inch depth drop where you land on both legs and then progress over time the height and also to single leg. That's also going to sort out imbalances. We know that imbalances leg to leg, especially in planting, if you look at every time that you kick a football, your left leg is going to be planting. If you're decelerating, your leg's going to be planting. We know that the more imbalanced side to side, the more likely ligament tear. And this can really reveal how confident we are, how much we're actually using our knee, the amount that we can actually handle in deceleration leg to leg when we do deceleration pliers like this, a depth drop. So that's going to be next, a depth drop. And the final thing is then going to be max decels. So max acceleration sprints, amazing. But instead of just sprints on its own, again, learn to decelerate it as hard as you can. And you can also implement objects to take your mind off it. So you can be throwing a ball to someone else, decelerating, you can be throwing balls against a wall, whatever. But that's going to take your mind off it. Because if you're thinking about decelerating really hard and you're thinking about your knee, you might compensate a little and create those bad movement patterns. Whereas in a game, you're playing and you're not really going to be thinking about decelerating too much. So that's going to make it more game realistic, right? But yeah, like learn to decelerate it as hard as possible. Like again, like there's so much depth to all of this stuff, to knee rehab, how I think we can reduce the ACL tear rates and stuff like that. But if we done these 3 things better, I promise you the re-tear rates would go down so much. So please start implementing these. Implement triple flexion, so tib raises, some kind of hamstring curl, Nordic curl, and hip flexion. Incorporate getting strong in deep ranges of motion, so ATG split squats and squats are going to be my 2 there. Obviously you have pistol squats as well, even sissy squats, reverse Nordics eventually down the line. But those 2, if we get ATG split squats and deep range of motion squats balanced out with like the box squats and stuff that you're already doing, amazing. And then third, deceleration ability rather than acceleration ability to start with. We can build acceleration ability on top of it, but if we don't have the ability to decelerate, we are going to get another injury, right? I really, really hope this helps. This is a bit of a longer video than I usually do for YouTube. I like the short ones where you can just get some education as you eat food or something like that. But to be honest, I think there's a lot of useful stuff in here and it can really, really help you. If you do want to work with us, we do one-on-one coaching where we support people to build stronger knees to be able to regain their life while working with their physios at the same time to test, do all this kind of stuff. So if you are looking to get back to football stronger than ever, you've been cleared by a physio to be able to start doing strength training, to start building your strength, then being able to work with a coach and using our system in particular is what I would have wanted when I was younger. If I had this system when I was younger and I was overcoming 5 years of knee injuries, I promise you I would not have had 5 years knee injuries. So to apply for that, it's going to be in the top link in the description. We get a lot of applications, so it might take a few days to be able to get back to you, but we're working as hard as we can to help as many people as possible, right? So apply down there, and I promise you we will get back to you. And as always, we are on a mission to make Ballers bulletproof again. If you know anyone that needs this, please send it their way. This could literally change the entire trajectory of their life by seeing my videos. And that's not just an exaggeration, that's not me bigging myself up, because I've seen it over and over again, and we are going to change the football world, and people are going to catch on to this, and this is very, very, very early stages. So I appreciate you watching, I appreciate you supporting. Let's get this rocking.